Oh, Sarah, sorry, you're on mute.
Apologies. Hello and welcome to this 1-hour FSB National Webinar on World Menopause Day. I'm Sarah King, Event Manager for London, and I have myself experienced an early menopause. Thank you for joining us today, and it's great to see the numbers going up on the screen, so thank you for coming to hear about menopause and menopause in the workplace. And before I introduce myself, I'll introduce our 5 guest speakers. I just wanted to share with you that October the 18th is designated World Menopause Awareness Day by the IMS, that's the International Menopause Society, and WHO, the World Health Organization. And it's held every year to raise awareness, break the stigma, and highlight the support options available for improving our health and well-being. There are around 35 menopause symptoms, but some websites will show many, many more symptoms. The theme for 2022 is cognition and mood, and it's focusing on menopause brain fog. It's a group of symptoms that occur around the time of the menopause, and they can include things like difficulty remembering words and numbers, disruptions in daily life, trouble concentrating, difficulty switching between tasks, forgetting the reason for doing something, and forgetting appointments and events. Today, we'll be talking about menopause and menopause in the workplace, as it's not just a gender or an age issue, it's also an organisational and a business issue. It can impact on our colleagues, our family, and our friends, directly and indirectly. So now, before I introduce our first guest speaker, please use the questions to panellists button to send over any of your questions, and we'll endeavour to answer as many as possible during today's webinar. The chat box has been closed, so please don't try and use that. There will be an opportunity for questions after we've heard from all of our 5 guest speakers. Today is a session which will be recorded and it will be shortly available on the FSB on demand section of our FSB website, which is www.fsb.org.uk. And also for those who are non-members of FSB who might be joining us here today, please do feel free to join us. We're a great family of small businesses, and we can introduce you to one of our FSB membership advisors. So now to our first guest, an FSB member is Dr. Olivia Hum, GP and a British menopause specialist. Olivia is one of only 160 British Menopause Society, or BMS, qualified menopause specialists, and holds the FSRH Advanced Certificate in Menopause Care. She is on the council of the BMS, which is a specialist authority for menopause and post-reproductive health in the UK. So I'm going to pass you over to Olivia now. So thank you. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for asking me to come and speak on this important topic. Let me just get my slides up. So I've got 7 minutes. So I'm going to go just put my timer on to make sure I don't run over. But so 7 minutes to basically explain a sort of introduction to menopause. So I'm a GP, an NHS GP. I'm also a menopause specialist. I run a network of clinics called Women's Health Sussex in Sussex, and we've today rebranded as Myla Health. So we're taking our clinics national. So it's a really exciting day, and it's World Menopause Day. So all of these things are great. But the key thing for what we need to do just when we first start thinking about it is just say, what is the menopause? So people talk all the time. They come to a clinic and they say, where am I in the menopause? Am I in the menopause? Have I gone past the menopause? And what's the perimenopause anyway? So just to quickly do the definition. So your menopause is actually just your last period. And this is what we call a retrospective diagnosis. So this is a diagnosis you can only make once you've gone a year without a period. And for many of us, we will never know that because we're on the Mirena or the progesterone only pill. And then the new thing, which has really just come in, this concept has appeared in the last 2 years, is this idea of the perimenopause. So previously it was all about your period stopping. And that was when that was menopause. But actually we're now realizing that even in your early 40s or late 30s, you can start feeling your hormones beginning to change. And we also know at this time that we can start intervening at this time, and we can start really making a difference to symptoms. You are postmenopausal 12 months after your last period. Under 45 is an early menopause, and under 40 is premature. And this is this really complicated diagram. We all learned this at medical school. We all forgot it the night after the exam. It is really difficult. But the key thing is when we're looking at perimenopause, is to start thinking about the hormones. And there are two hormones that we talk about, although there's testosterone as well, but that's for another talk. But there are two main hormones we talk about, and that is estrogen and progesterone. And estrogen is your female hormone. That's what makes you turn into a woman from a girl at puberty. And there are estrogen receptors everywhere in the body. So it's not just about the hot flushes. They've got estrogen in your bones, your joints, your muscles, your brain, your heart, everywhere. And in the perimenopause, what women will say to me is, I feel fine in the second week of my cycle. So if you look at the yellow line, that's when your estrogen level is going up. Then your estrogen level falls at menopause after ovulation, and then progesterone is produced. And the progesterone prepares your womb lining for pregnancy, but often that causes the symptoms of the PMS symptoms. So often what we find in the early perimenopause, it's these mental health symptoms which are the first ones that appear, and that's feeling anxious and irritable, or sometimes very low just before your period. Then often as your period starts, you start feeling much better. As it progresses through the perimenopause, if you look at the graph in the bottom of the slide, your hormones just go all over the place. So rather than these ups and downs every month, they just start going. So you'll have some days when you feel great, other days when you feel terrible, and then eventually your periods stop. And so it was all about the hot flushes. And so I trained in the 90s when the menopause didn't exist, and we learned absolutely nothing about this at medical school. And I remember learning that anxiety was not about menopause, nothing to do with menopause. It was because, as I was told by an elderly male gynecologist, it was because women had their children who'd left home and they no longer had any purpose in society, and so they got really depressed. And so it's nothing to do with their hormones at all. So as a 48-year-old woman, I'm going to, that's not really an idea of your 40s and 50s, which I would like to buy into. But what we do know is that women really suffer, and it is not just the hot flushes. For me, the women that I see in my clinic, it is the cognitive symptoms that they come with, and that is firstly the mood symptoms, so irritability, anxiety, tearfulness, stress about minor things. So driving often becomes a massive big deal. People arrive at the clinic and absolute fluster because they're like, I used to drive everywhere, and now going somewhere new just makes me really anxious and upset. Poor concentration, so the brain fog that people talk about. And we know this is a thing. If you look at MRIs of the brain, so anyone who saw the second Davina documentary, we know that estrogen has an effect on the brain. And when your estrogen levels start fluctuating and falling, this affects how your brain works. And what people say to me, I feel like I'm wading through treacle. I feel like I can't make the connections anymore. I can't concentrate. I'm trying to do a course at work. I look at big bits of text and I can't get to the end, and then I've forgotten. And for women like us who are all trying to function at a really high level, we're juggling work, we're juggling family, we often have elderly parents, we are disproportionately likely to be running a household. We need to be functioning on all cylinders. And when your brain stops working, that is terrifying. And a lot of the women who come to see me say, I'm worried that I might have dementia. I'm really worried about what's happening to my brain. And the good thing about this is, firstly, this is reversible. So what the Davina documentary didn't show is actually these changes will get better on their own eventually, but it can take a few years for them to happen. They are not associated with dementia. Brain fog and dementia are different things. And then the third thing that we really think about is the disturbed sleep. So Dr. Zoe Shadell, who works with me at Women's Health Sussex, now Myla Health, is a sleep specialist and another menopause specialist. And so we see a lot of women with disturbed sleep. And we know that anyone who's had young children or who's going through the menopausal transition themselves will know that everything feeds on sleep. So if your sleep is disturbed, you become anxious, you lose concentration, your memory goes, you then become more anxious, so you can't sleep. So and it just goes round and round in circles. And often what we do in our clinic is just restoring people's sleep, with or without HRT, can make an enormous difference to how they feel and how they are able to cope with the myriad of billions of things which life is throwing at you in your 40s and 50s and 60s. We know, and just before we started, we were talking amongst ourselves about low mood and suicide during during menopause, and we know that the highest suicide rate in women is in between 45 and 55. And we also know that for years, and I include myself in this, where doctors have been treating mood changes in your 40s with antidepressants. So antidepressants are brilliant and they work brilliantly for some people, but the NICE guidelines are clear now for new mood changes in 40s, in your when you're starting to have menopausal symptoms, that HRT, if you can take it, is the first line treatment. And so very quickly, my last minute, just to go through the treatments for this. So lifestyle, reducing alcohol, it helps you, it lowers your serotonin levels, it makes you anxious, it makes you sleep poorly. Exercise and yoga, really good evidence about increasing your serotonin level, making your brain function better, makes you feel better. We know there's a lot we can do with diet. We work closely with a nutritionist called Karen Newby. If anyone's interested, have a look at her Instagram page. Lots about the healthy Mediterranean diet and how it can help your brain. And then there's HRT, which is a superb and really effective treatment for brain changes in the menopause. But for many women who cannot have HRT or who don't want to have HRT, there is a lot we can do. So antidepressants can be very helpful, not only for mood changes, but also for hot flushes and for sleep. But also there's a real interest now in cognitive behavioral therapy for hot flushes, for sleep disturbance, and for anxiety. So that was my very, very brief introduction. I will go and let someone else, but if anyone wants any more information, our new website's just been launched, amilahealth.co.uk, or just give me an email. There we go.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Olivia Hum. That was absolutely fascinating, and the insights you shared. And gosh, when you say about the symptoms, I'm still waiting for my first hot flush, but I've had plenty of other symptoms, and I did actually go on to HRT myself, and it has made a difference for me, but I know it doesn't always work for everybody. So thank you very much for sharing that with us today. So in June 2022, FSB signed the Menopause in the Workplace Pledge, and it's committed, we're committed to supporting the staff in the organisation, but also our membership. FSB research in 2022 found that 64% of small businesses employ at least one woman aged 50 or over. FSB hopes that more small businesses will sign the pledge to retain this important talent of the over 50s in women. So now to our second guest, who is Laura Neal, the Head of Partnerships from Wellbeing of Women.
Hi, brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm just going to share my slides and give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour through Wellbeing of Women, the work we do and the work specifically that we've been doing around menopause. So we are a women's health charity. We save and change the lives of women, girls and babies, and we do this through research, education and advocacy. We've been around for nearly 60 years, and so where we started very much as a research fund looking at maternal death during childbirth, back in the 70s and the 80s, our remit really expanded, and so we cover all reproductive and gynecological health. And we have recently been doing a lot of work in the space of menopause. So in 2015, we funded the first of our Menopause in the Workplace research projects. And that first project came out with this staggering figure that 25% of people who go through menopause either consider leaving work, they do leave work, they reduce their hours, or they're passing up promotions. And so you can see it's a huge loss, and there's a lot of kind of follow-on impacts from this. That work was looking at the use of CBT and the types of interventions that organisations could start to put in place to really stem the loss of talent for people who are going through, essentially what is a very natural transition that 50% of our population are going to go through. As a follow-on to that piece of work, we're now funding Dr. Claire Hardy at the University of Lancaster, and she's developing a toolkit that organisations will be able to take on board to implement within their organisations, and it will give a pathway, really kind of a blueprint of what support can look like for different organisations. So carrying on from that original piece of work. And so we launched a new strategy in 2021, and that was with our kind of headed by our chair, who is Professor Dame Leslie Regan, who was recently made the first Women's Health Ambassador by the government, and is really kind of there to help roll out the Women's Health Strategy. And what we wanted to do was look at an area where we really felt that we could have the most impact, and we felt like menopause in the workplace could be it. There was so much going on It feels like a topic that people are really starting to talk about. We've seen the Davina McCall documentaries. We've seen so many amazing people are starting to really open up and normalise these conversations. And Bupa and CIPD had launched a piece of research that showed that 1 million people had left the workplace. And so this was something that we really wanted to get behind. We feel like this is just not, it's 2022, we can't be losing all of these fantastic individuals in the UK workforce. It's a huge loss. It has a huge impact on individuals, on individual well-being. It has a huge impact on gender inequality. So it continues to fuel the gender pay gap. Women have less pension contributions if they've had to leave the workplace early. And it creates a void of senior female leadership that can act as role models for people coming through. So this was where we really wanted to focus kind of our attention for our first big campaign. And so last year we launched the Menopause Workplace Pledge, which, as Sarah said, the FSB have signed up to. And that pledge is really there to make 3 commitments. So the first is to recognise menopause as a workplace issue, and that it's something that has business impacts. It's to create environments where people can talk openly, positively and respectfully about menopause, and that is everybody within those organisations, not just the people who are experiencing menopause, and to put in place the support and the kind of the initiatives, if you like, that are going to really provide the support to make sure that people can stay in work and continue to thrive in their roles. And that can look really different for different organisations. So that's why we wanted to create this. There's no cost to signing the pledge, so we wanted to really kind of reduce any barriers to organisations signing up. And then when organisations do sign up, you can do it on our website. It's very easy, and you tick a box to say that you're happy to receive emails. And then what we're doing is we're sharing ideas of kind of case studies, so what's worked for other organisations, examples of best practice. We can signpost to organisations that can really help to implement line manager training, or can help provide the consultancy that you might need to write a menopause policy, if that's the way that you feel it's going to have the most impact in your organisation. But really, I think what I kind of want to stress here is that this pledge is for organisations that really want to start this work. And so I would make the assumption that if you've joined this call, you are already kind of part of the way there, if you've not already, started to take some actions in this space. But it's really not a one size fits all. We didn't want to go down the every company should have a policy route, because we speak to some companies that feel that it doesn't create the behaviour change within the organisation that they want. So it really is about recognising menopause in the workplace. It's about creating open, positive environments to talk about menopause, and it's about supporting your employees. And so I would really ask everyone on the call to head over to our website and to take a look and to consider signing the pledge if you haven't already. And I will just leave there. I've got a couple of links there that I may be able to get sent around later, but I'm very happy to kind of answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura, for highlighting the great campaign work that Wellbeing of Women do. And I must say I'm very proud of the FSB for making the pledge and supporting staff and menopause in the workplace. And yes, any small business on the call today, please, it's definitely worth looking at the campaign and supporting those women in your workplace too. So now we're going to go to our third guest speaker, an FSB member, Grace Graham, who's director of Keep It Simple Training Company. Grace provides bespoke training consultancy to organisations on anti-racism at work and CPD certified interactive online courses. She's a lecturer in business administration and management and serves as FSB London's diversity and inclusion policy lead. Grace is open about her own menopause and copes with it by being very sporty. And at 54, she became a second Dan Black belt in Taekwondo and trains with an Olympian. So now I'm going to pass you over to Grace.
Hi, thank you for the introduction, Sarah. And yes, Taekwondo. It's a hard one. It's a hard one to get your mouth around. But yes, so it was such a pleasure to come and talk about this today, because I'm very, very open with my menopause and the symptoms. you know, I'm 54. I have no problem telling you I'm 54. I started, I got in the perimenopausal stages when I was 48. So that was about 6 years ago. And my God, it hit me like a Mack truck. So, you know, the kind of symptoms I had were, gosh, flushes. They were the worst. So Sarah, if you get those, you know, you'll know about it. Because one minute you'll be in England getting on with it, and next minute you think you're in the tropics. And there's been times when I have, you know, gone up to present something, and I'm just really honest and say, you know, I break out in beads of sweat just like that. And I say, sometimes I don't know if I'm really, really hot or it's the flushes. And that happened really recently, especially as we came out of the, you know, the heat spell that we had. So the perimenopausal stage, I didn't know what was going on. And it really did affect my relationships with people, especially, you know, a guy I was seeing at the time. And you know, all types of things come on, that sleeplessness, the low mood, and the time when it was at the worst was 3 years ago, where for the first time in my life, I thought it would be easier to end it. You know, I thought it'd be easier if I wasn't here. So those kind of feelings come through to you, and you know, the low mood, and you don't know what's going on. The flushes, the sleeplessness, and the sleeplessness is because you're so hot, you don't know what to do. And I remember it being Christmas 2016 or something like that, or a bit later, and it was boiling in my room. No heating was on, and I opened the windows really, really wide, and I just couldn't sleep, and I felt like I was losing it, absolutely losing it. And I contacted the surgery, and they, you know, everything that Dr. Olivia was talking about, I was going, yes, I had that, I had that, I had that, yes, yes. So the brain fog, the aches, the sleeplessness, the flushes, the constant peeing. And that's another thing that makes you not able to sleep. You know, you're up all the time. And it's like, you want to go to, you know, you've got to go to work the next day. You've got to get up and try and be your best. And you're just knackered, absolutely knackered. So there was one particular day where I had the windows open at the height of December, just before Christmas. And I couldn't sleep. And I was just so stressed out. So I contacted doctor and actually got an emergency appointment on a Saturday afternoon. And when I went to the doctor, you know, she did a full diagnostic. You know, what's your eating like? What's your lifestyle? And you do hear of some people not getting the right support from GPs. But this lady looked at my history. My mum died of cancer many years ago, and the first cancer she got was breast cancer. Because of that, I can't take HRT. So she recommended that I change, you know, I look at my diet, like what I'm eating. So she says more fats, more carbs, but, you know, so I said, well, I can eat cake, burgers, what? No, sensible things, Grace. So she gave me a list of the kind of things to eat, and then encouraged me to exercise more. And I think at the time I wasn't exercising as much, I was just cycling. And I'd had a car at the time, and I still remember giving the car, well, selling it for a really low price, not really thinking about what I could get for it, but just, we buy any car, gone. But the GP was really, really good, and she took time. She took time to listen to me and talk to me. And she says, you know, we're not going to put you on HRT, but what we would recommend is sage. Sage had come in tablet form, and also sage tea. So I started drinking that, and it really did sort out the flushes. Another thing I did more of was, I'm a Buddhist, so I did some more voice meditation. And then that kind of gave me the strength to really think about how else I can cope with this. And one of the things I did do was talk. I talked about it. But a few years ago, I was 50. Yeah, I was 50, going into my 51, just before my 51st birthday. I was at my lowest, and I had a real crisis of confidence. Didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. The work that I was getting was not of good, it wasn't paying very well. I had high quality, but I just couldn't see it. And I was just not in the greatest frame of mind. And I went and had cognitive behavior therapy, and that really helped me to get through it. But also FSB Care were great, and you're going to hear them soon. So the way I started to combat that was I talk about it as much as possible, and I don't feel any shame at all. I wear layers of clothing. I take clothes with me if I need it. I do more sports. So as Sarah said, I got a second Dan black belt in Taekwondo very recently. So I do more of that. So ways I would say that organisations can support the menopause or women who are in that stage of their life is to take regular breaks, allow the diaries. I have this diary, and I have this diary, an online diary, and I have this wonderful thing, which is a fan. I take it everywhere with me and use it. But the biggest thing is, talk about it and allow people to share what they are going through, and sit by ventilated areas. So when I do my leadership training and everything, I share it. So thank you very much, and enjoy.
Oh, Grace, thank you very much for sharing your story, your menopause story, and just what you've experienced. And I think probably you've voiced for many what they go through in the menopause journey. And it's not easy at all, but it's finding those coping mechanisms to suit you as an individual to cope with your own menopause. And there are many ways to get help and support out there. And what I'm personally really grateful for now is that there's a lot more conversation going on about the menopause, which certainly wasn't the case when I went through an early menopause some years ago. And I am very grateful for that. So thank you very much again, Grace, for just being open and honest about your menopause.
You're welcome.
So we're going to now move on to our fourth guest speaker, who is Hannah Thomas, Employment Solicitor at Markle Law, supporting our FSB legal service to members with a particular focus on providing guidance from a small business employer perspective. So I'm going to pass you to Hannah now.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, and thank you for that introduction. I just want to add that it's a real pleasure to be here today and just to be part of this conversation, and also, for example, from Grace to hear her own personal and difficult story and her own journey. So I think I'll just start by saying, acknowledging the change in employment culture and the fact that employers are addressing issues now that are typically outside the remit of, or have been outside the remit of employment law. And so in that sense, there has been a cultural change. And I think we have a much greater understanding, for example, that mental health, as much as physical health, is health, and it impacts on our working life as well as our personal lives. And I think in the same way, but not yet to the same extent, there has been increased recognition of the need for awareness around the menopause and including in the workplace. So I'm just going to just perhaps talk you through a little bit more around some of those issues from an employment point of view.
Hi, Hannah.
Sorry, I just wanted to share some slides with you. I think there's a little bit of issue with the slides. So I'm just going to just talk generally, and I'm going to talk very much from the small business employer perspective around the menopause, and just sort of bring you up to date in terms of where we are now. So I think that obviously, of course, important to note that the menopause can cause a range of physical and psychological symptoms, and those symptoms can last for many years. Obviously, this morning we're focused on very much on cognition and mood. There have been a number of recent studies which shows that menopause can in particular affect confidence in the workplace. So it can be around an employee not deciding to go for that promotion in the workplace, in the worst case scenario, perhaps even leaving employment and then never coming back to the workplace. Grace, for example, has spoken about how it affected her potential in terms of achieving at work at times. So just looking at the current legal position that employers need to be aware of, there has been a lot of discussion around whether the law is fit for purpose in supporting women who in the workplace who are going through the menopause. And there was a discussion which was chaired by the Women and Equalities Committee earlier this year as to whether the current law is indeed fit for purpose, and whether the law needs amending to recognise menopause as a protected characteristic in the workplace, so a characteristic by itself. Because currently, in order, if you were to bring a tribunal claim, you would need to shoehorn into the existing protected characteristics under the Equality Act. So that will be typically age, because older women tend to generally start the menopause, or it can be sex, because women will go through the menopause, or it could be disability if the symptoms of the menopause are particularly debilitating. Now, as of November last year, the previous government commissioned an independent report. This report did recognise that menopause is a key recruitment and retention issue, so a very important one for the workplace and for employers to consider, and that there is a real lack of awareness around the menopause in the workplace. And the report made 10 recommendations for change in this area. The government published, or the previous government rather, published their policy papers, their response to that independent report, and they decided that there wasn't a clear case for a change in the legislation, so for a change in the law in terms of recognising the menopause as a protected characteristic in law. But they did make various recommendations. So those recommendations will be in terms of the importance of having open conversations in the workplace around the menopause, just to break down those taboos, and the need for employers to consider workplace adjustments in addition to flexible working, and the particular value of support groups and specialist support. And also employers looking at their existing policies, so they don't necessarily need to introduce a new menopause policy, but it may be a question of looking at their sick leave policies and procedures, looking at performance management, looking at flexible working rights in terms of how these can assist or be relevant to women who are suffering menopause symptoms that impacts their work life. I think, so the particular question will be, how can small business employers in particular support employees affected by the menopause? And now it can be formal support. So as Laura has outlined, it can be a question of employers signing up to the menopause workplace pledge, as the Federation of Small Businesses have done. It can be looking at your existing policies and training line managers. And I think this is something that's very important, because line managers are going to be your first point of contact as an employee if you do have issues in the workplace, if you are needing to take time off even as a result of menopause symptoms, then obviously your line manager is going to be the person that you report those symptoms to. But I think that the issue is as always with the law, it can be a bit of a blunt instrument, and really it's more around encouraging that change in culture in the workplace, and training as well, so that a sympathetic or an empathetic ear rather is available for employees who are suffering the effects of menopause, and that's impacting on their work. I think very much it also depends on the workplace demographic in terms of how, as a small business employer, you want to introduce certain measures or support to support those employees and enable them to achieve their small potential in the workplace. Menopause training for line managers is important, and it's key from that point of view, I think, particularly for the small business employer. And also just ensuring that line managers are aware how menopause can affect workplace performance and self-confidence. And then it's not about the line manager being an expert on the menopause, very much not so, but it's about making the line manager aware of how they can signpost employees to relevant policies. Perhaps you might have a menopause policy, you may not do, but you may have a policy that actually outlines particular organisations, charities that employees can get in touch with to get the relevant support that they need. If it's a case of managing absence, keeping in touch with someone that's off, looking at workplace adjustments. I think the key is that the employer can and should expect the employee to perform, because that's what the contract is about. But it's just about removing some of those barriers if it's reasonable to do so, and if it's practical to do so. So I think that really, in a nutshell, that is the focus for the employer, particularly the small business employer.
Hannah, thank you very much for sharing that update and how small businesses can sort of understand the legal aspects of menopause in the workplace. Really, really informative. And obviously FSB members can access this sort of legal support through their membership benefits. So FSB members on the call, please be reminded of that today. So thank you very much, Hannah, for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So now we move on to our final guest today, and that's Christine Husband, who is the Managing Director of Red Arc, and is the provider of our FSB Care membership benefit for those members on the call and for those non-members on the call to be aware of. So I'm going to pass you over to Christine now. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to say, I have been through the menopause myself. Fortunately, my symptoms weren't too severe, thankfully. But even having been through the menopause, every time I listen to a webinar like this, I learn something, and you realise just how multifaceted it is and how many different effects people have. And I just think it's absolutely fabulous that it's being understood and more recognised into the difficulties that some ladies unfortunately face. I just wanted to spend a few minutes just telling you a little bit about FSB Care and how we can help people, ladies going through the menopause, but generally too. So FSB Care, for those that don't know, is provided by a company called Red Arc. I am the Managing Director and have been and have had the pleasure of being the Managing Director of the business since 2010. We employ registered nurses, both in the general side and mental health. And they support people with any physical or mental health condition. It doesn't have to be a diagnosed condition. If it's causing them a serious issue, then we're there to help. Also help people in bereavement. We can provide a long-term support for members for themselves, and we can also advise them about an employee or a family member, but clearly the support is there for the member themselves. So everybody has the support one-to-one with a dedicated nurse by telephone, and we find telephone really works well. It's non-intrusive, you can pick the phone up, it's quite easy, very confidential. So we find it works really, really well. It's just regular long-term telephone calls from the same nurse on a regular basis. So the member gets to know the nurse very well. The clinical assessment goes on, there's an agreed plan, resources might be sent out, leaflets, information, apps. We do a lot of signposting and navigating of the NHS. And really the support we give is so tailored to the needs of each individual. It's actually difficult to list everything that we do, but that gives you an idea. And also we can provide a course of therapy or counselling or other clinically appropriate service. The feedback from members is excellent. In their last survey, 100% said the service was excellent. And quotes such as that one there, this has been the most beneficial part of being a member of FSB. They are quite regular quotes, fortunately, that we receive. Just moving quickly on, excuse me. Slide 2, thank you. So therapy and counselling, we can provide a wide range of services based on the clinical assessment of the nurse as to what is most appropriate for that individual, for their circumstances. There are sometimes circumstances where we feel that we need to have the approval of the GP to make sure that it's not going to be counterproductive for that individual. Sometimes we may say to the patient, please go and check with your GP that he or she is happy for you to have that, and we will organise it. So there is a vast range. It says there are over 30 different types. There isn't actually a limit on what we can provide, other than that it applies to the financial limit that's agreed with FSB, which is £250 per health condition. So that limits us, but in what we can provide, provided it's clinically validated, then we will provide that. And provided that the individual providing the therapy is a member of the appropriate professional body, because we have to make sure they're properly qualified and that sort of thing. So there's a vast range there, and the nurse will determine what is most appropriate. Sometimes there's nothing appropriate. Sometimes the most important, and well, should I say always the most important part of the service is the long-term support of the nurse. But sometimes that is all that is needed, but sometimes something else may be of benefit. And so just in terms of the menopause, we provide support to ladies going through the menopause, and I'm delighted to know that we help Grace so well. Actually, it's absolutely fabulous to know that we've made that difference. But it's for ladies who are having difficulty coping with the symptoms. So again, the support is completely tailored to the individual. As we know, the menopause is multifaceted and causes lots of ripple effects within families and relationships, etc. And the benefit of the support of the nurse through the long term is they can support the lady holistically with all that's concerning her at the time, not just to menopause symptoms, but perhaps the effect of those symptoms, whether it be the effect on her work, whether it be effect on her relationship, or both. So it's practical advice for managing the symptoms, maybe, lots of emotional support and lots of reassurance that actually, yes, a lot of women do suffer with that symptom. It may seem unusual, but as we all know, people talk about hot flushes as being the main symptom, but we know there's many, many others. The impact maybe on other health conditions, those going through the early menopause, we've talked about having had cancer treatment being one of them. So the impact of other health conditions. Signposting to useful organisations. One of the speakers earlier gave a list of organisations, and we would signpost appropriately. Lots of useful resources we would send out. Talking to the lady about discussing options. Sometimes they want to spend some time talking things through. I must stress at this point, and maybe as to stressed earlier, we're not there to take the place of the GP. You know, the GP and the NHS is primary care. We're there as secondary care. We can talk things through, but ultimately that decision needs to be taken in conjunction with the GP. But sometimes having that time to talk over in an unhurried fashion can be really helpful. And then obviously we talked about all the external service. So typically for ladies going through the menopause, we might provide a course of counselling, particularly if they're struggling with their mental health, dietitian, nutrition, and sometimes complementary therapies. But every time the service selected, when it's appropriate, is based on what is most helpful to that individual. And then just to close, and hopefully this can be shared, is how to contact FSB Care. A telephone number, by email, membership number is required, and we work Monday to Friday 9 till 5. And hopefully that's given you a bit of an overview of FSB Care, how it supports people going through the menopause, but more generally as well. So very happy to take any questions that might arise.
Thank you very much, Christine. That was really informative. And, you know, we know within the FSB Care membership benefit is extremely popular. So to sort of hear how that can support women going through the menopause was really very helpful. And thank you very much. So FSB members, please, if you're not using your FSB Care benefit or your FSB legal benefit, and you've heard from our speakers today, please do make sure you have a look at the benefits on the website. If you're not sure how you can use them, you can always contact the FSB customer services team or reach out to your local FSB membership advisor. So now we've got some time we've got until just before 1:15 for questions and answers. So I think we're going to introduce all our panel showing now on cameras. That's really great to see you all. We've got a question in the Q&A box. So I'm going to just say it and see, and I'm going to just invite the panel to answer. So it's from Linda, and Linda's asking, I'm wondering what effects does chronic inflammation and the oxidative stress have on menopause? And if reducing these would relieve your symptoms, what can we use to reduce these? Maybe that's for Dr. Olivia Hum. Have you got any ideas there, please?
So, and the concept of sort of chronic oxidative stress and it is one that's sort of slightly outside the realms of kind of conventional medicine, but we do know that estrogen, that menopause is an inflammatory condition, pro-inflammatory condition. We know that estrogen is anti-inflammatory. We know that it has an anti-inflammatory effect on things like the walls of the blood vessels, which is one of the reasons why HRT, if given via the skin, can reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke. And then the other obviously really important thing in terms of reducing, sort of optimizing what your body takes in is about diet. And that very much, again, from a nutritionist point of view, is sort of looking at various things that you can have in your diet. So avoiding things like processed food and lots of sugar and that kind of thing. But again, that's about my level of knowledge about nutrition. We work very closely with a nutritionist to do that sort of thing. But that would be the main answer, is optimizing your diet. And then if it's right for you, using HRT.
Oh, thank you. And I'm guessing also, Christine, members can contact FSB Care for support with any sort of aspect of menopause symptoms too.
Absolutely, sure, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you very much. So please, those who are on the webinar today, if you have more questions, please do put them forward to us. And I have got a few here in my chat, so I'm going to just read one out here. This might also actually be for Olivia. What can you do to help with the brain fog?
So again, HRT can really help with the brain fog, but it's all back to everything. So as everyone has been saying, all the speakers have been saying, menopause is a multifactorial. It affects lots of different parts of your body and it affects lots of different parts of your life. And actually, so a lot of the women I see are, like all of us at my age, incredibly highly stressed, and they're doing loads of different stuff, and they're running from here to there, and then they're doing like 3 HIIT classes, and then they're drinking loads when they go out on the weekend, and then they're just again, a part of it is about, I think women are very good at looking after other people, but we're often not very good at looking after ourselves. And I completely talk as someone who does not practice what I preach at all, but again, taking a step back, just working out how we can prioritize ourselves, prioritize our diet, our exercise, our lifestyle, and getting enough sleep. And it is really, and which is so hard, but people say that, and when you can't sleep, you're like, great, oh, that's a really great comment to make. But there are simple things, like the number of patients I meet who are having a glass of wine every night because they're so stressed and anxious. They have a glass of wine, it then disturbs their sleep. You think you're sleeping when you've drunk a glass of wine, but actually you're not. It's poor quality sleep. Then you wake up in the morning feeling low because it drops your serotonin level, and then that night you feel anxious and tired again, so you have another glass of wine. So simple things like cutting that out, doing a bit more exercise can really help with brain fog if you can't take, or you don't want to take, HRT.
No, thank you for that. And I was going to open that up to our other panelists. So did you want to sort of add anything to sort of how you cope with brain fog?
For me, I've had that brain fog stuff, and I just write things down. So I have different things, different books for different things. But I have a lot of appointments as well. I have a couple of days a week where I know I'm going to do these 2 things. So my 2 lecturing days, Thursday and Friday, always, always, always. The other days are a bit more open. So as I said before, I've got the task list on here, reminder. I also have the diary on here, but I also have diary written down in my book, and I have an online diary. So they all flash up when things are to remind me to do things. But for me, the brain fog thing is the way I cope with it is I just slow down, and I really learned to take care of myself. So and I listen to my body more now, because I really want to live till I'm, I'd like to live for another 30 years, please. So if my body says no, it's not, you're not going to do that. You know, my mind says, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to go out dancing. And my body says, no, I listen to my body. So there will be days when I'll be lying on the sofa for a day. And then I get my energy back and I'm good to go. But yeah, I love it.
Definitely good to be kind to yourself, isn't it? You're trying to juggle so much. So it's really important to have that downtime so you can cope with all the other times. So no, thank you for sharing that. So I've got another question here about actually the Menopause Women Pledge. How can small businesses get involved, and about the size of businesses too? So that's one for Laura.
Yeah, there's no barriers to it, so there's no cost to it. It's on our website, it's free to sign up to, and I really would, as I said before, encourage everyone to do that. And you know, once you sign up, you'll receive emails from us, so we can you know, direct you to different resources, and we can help give you ideas of things that might work. We're hoping that we'll be able to expand it next year, and we'll have more content, more webinars. We partner with different organisations, so we try to really create kind of a hub of resources. And just coming back to what Grace was saying, actually, a lot of what we hear is that sometimes all people need is, you know, we live in this kind of hybrid working environment now where you have back-to-back calls, and sometimes 10 minutes in between your meetings so that you have time to write those notes, to write those things down, to go and get some fresh air, might just be what somebody needs. So it's allowing some space. You know, women we're pretty good at kind of finding ways around things. And so I think that people, you know, we have the resources within ourselves often. And so it's just giving people the space to be able to use them and put in practice kind of the small things that are going to help them. So it doesn't have to be hugely costly. I think we really wanted to avoid this being something where people felt like it was going to, you know, be some enormous project that was going to cost, you know, thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds for, you know, for small business. It's not. There's really small things that people can do. So yeah, if you go to the website, you can sign up, you can start receiving emails, and we have lots of conversations with different businesses. So, you know, I'd welcome anyone to kind of get in touch and we can have a chat.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Laura. And I know on the FSB website, if people went onto the FSB website and they just searched Menopause Pledge, you can find sort of our sort of pledge to the Wellbeing of Women campaign. So thank you very much for that. Very helpful, and we'll definitely carry on promoting it. So I've got some more questions here for you. There's 3 which relates very much to HRT, so we're going to come back to those, but we've got one here which says, is undiagnosed ADHD worse in perimenopause stage? Is that something anybody can answer on our panel today?
The answer is yes. What would be really interesting is hearing from the people who work in the workplace field who are on this call, and it's sort of whether that's something that's being thought about, and how small businesses can support their employees who are neurodiverse during the perimenopause, because we do know often the perimenopause is the time when the neurodiversity is unmasked, just because people have been coping for so long. Then suddenly, as the hormones start changing, this is when your symptoms start becoming worse. So I'd be really interested to hear what the other panelists have got to say about this.
Any other comments on that particular question?
Yeah, if I could just jump in, because it's something that we get quite a few calls around on the FSB legal advice line from small business employers, supporting neurodiverse employees, and obviously if those symptoms or impairments are exacerbated during the menopause, then that could be a time when employers can look at and have, I think really there's a law on one side, but it's more about sort of creating the environment where staff feel that they can approach their immediate managers. So I think that's why it's important to increase awareness, and also to make managers aware of what particular policies may be appropriate. So I think here it could be around making workplace adjustments, it could be adjustments to the role itself, it could be how you carry out that role. I think, as Grace has mentioned, around using diaries. Obviously we use electronic diaries now. I have to, you know, my life would fall apart without an electronic diary, and obviously managing children, and obviously going through the menopause myself as well. It's all, it's just without, you have to have those reminders, and also making that little bit of extra time, having, as Laura says, having that 10 minutes between one meeting and another meeting, and then having that conversation with your line manager saying, look, I just need a little bit of a pause. And as the employer, you're not obliged by law to make adjustments which aren't reasonable, which you can't accommodate, but you do have to consider where someone has a disability. But even if someone doesn't have a disability, if an impairment is not such that it amounts to a disability, obviously your employer is going to be able to reach their potential, they're going to be more comfortable, it's just going to be more better experience for everybody around if you are able to have those conversations and look at where adjustments and can be made in the workplace. I think really that's where adjustments come in from an employer perspective.
No, thank you very much. And I'm just mindful of the time. So we've got 3 more questions to answer, and they do relate to HRT. So I'm going to just read them out all individually. So one is it ever too late for HRT? Yes or no?
No, it's caveat. Well, no, not really, no.
Can I answer that as well?
Go on.
I have never taken HRT, and I'm coping all right with what I've got with my Sage, but it works for me. It depends, but I personally would not say it's too late at all, because I'm not on it, and I'm here.
And there are other alternatives, aren't there, as well? I mean, I think Dr. Olivia, you mentioned on one of your slides about St John's Wort. I saw that come up on your slide as another opportunity to consider using. But I'm just aware, let's just move on to can HRT be prescribed if you have passed the 12 months, or is it only effective for perimenopause?
No, it can be prescribed at any time. So yeah, it's a bit like the other question. There are risks about prescribing it in women over 60, but again, so it would need a proper risk benefit discussion, basically.
Okay, and I'm mindful we've got 2 more questions here. So thank you. We've got one attendee have tried HRT patches, all strengths, and now for 6 months on estrogel. Unfortunately, haven't seen any changes. What should I do next? Main issues: brain fog, anxiety, sleep issues, tiredness.
It's really difficult to offer sort of personalised medical, but I'd always say just to go back, try and sort of go through everything again and try and work out what symptoms you are treating, and try, if you can, see a menopause specialist. There aren't very many of us. There are a lot of areas without any NHS menopause support, which we're working on very hard, but trying to get referred onwards. So if you're near a big city, a lot of the big cities have got them, and so actually they'll often do phone appointments, so you can get advice if you've got more specialised medical needs from somewhere like that.
Thank you. And just one last question: when to stop HRT?
Oh, again, it's how long is a piece? A risk benefit. So everything about HRT is a risk benefit balance. So you should be having an annual discussion of your risks and benefits. Some women, I've got patients in their 80s who are still on it. Obviously, they look about 25, but they're having a brilliant time. But and I've got other women who take it for 5 years and then stop and feel completely fine. So every woman is an individual. So, but there's no absolute reason to stop. Not anymore. It used to be 5 years and off, but now it's very different. It's about an individualized discussion.
Can I just chime in quickly and to say, just keep going, keep trying, keep talking to people who know stuff. What works for one may not work for another, but it's about finding what works for you. So keep going.
I'm aware that we're coming to the end of our session today, and I know there's another question about sort of where to go out to clinics, but I think Dr. Olivia Hum, we can share all the links and connections for today and the recording to those who've attended today. So please, those who are attending, please reach out to seek extra support. So I just want to say thank you very much to all of our 5 guests today. So that's Dr. Olivia Hum, Laura Neal, Grace Graham, Hannah Thomas, Christine Husbands, and my colleague who's behind the scenes, Ness Gale. She's been absolutely fantastic. So today is World Menopause Day, and our call to you is to recognise that menopause can be an issue in the workplace, and women need to support to encourage more to talk openly, positively and respectfully about the menopause and continue this conversation, a very important conversation, help raise awareness of the menopause. And finally, if you've enjoyed today's event, please do think about going over to Trustpilot and leaving us a comment. It'd be wonderful if you could. And really, thank you very much for attending this FSB National Webinar on World Menopause Day.
Thank you, everyone.